How many times during the day are you being critical about yourself? Thoughts like, I will never be enough, or I'll never be successful, or you skip the gym and tell yourself, oh, you're so lazy. Some people even hold themselves responsible for the happiness of others and think things like, my spouse is so upset, she would be so much better if I did more to help her. You might even interpret the thoughts of others by having never heard their real thoughts. Like, for example, this person won't go out on a date with me because they probably think I'm ugly. Any of this sounds familiar? Thoughts like this are automatic. You cannot help having them, but they can change your mood and your feelings. In this episode, I will share with you an exercise that is designed to help you change your negative thinking to a more positive one. That's because unhelpful thinking leads to dead ends, and when you are in a dead end, you're not able to find a solution for the challenge you're facing. By using this exercise, you'll be able to find new alternative ways of thinking that will help you and lead you to better outcomes. So our key for this exercise will be to ask the right questions, and I promise you, yourself has all the answers you need. I'm Dimitris, and I share tools and insights on how to design a well-lived life. So if we go to the basics of what many schools of psychology suggest, we will see that most of them agree on one thing, and that is that our emotions and our behaviors are the result of our interpretation of any given situation. Our interpretations can be positive, and in this case they help us toward actions that will benefit us in the long run, or our interpretations can be negative, in which case they push us to a mindset and to actions that make our life even more difficult. We know from several studies that negative thinking keeps us in a spiral of mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and many others. So today's exercise will help us challenge those negative thoughts and beliefs we might have about certain issues, and it will also help us create a new mindset for going about those challenges. What we will do is that we will examine how helpful each thought we have is, and we will try to analyze it from different points of view. Then, by consciously understanding those points of view and those perspectives, we will try to formulate alternatives and see where this leads us. So grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, I have my notebook here, and let's jump straight into it. Do this exercise at your own pace and know that there's no right or wrong answer. Just let the pen write whatever comes out of your mind. Now, I'm going to use a negative thought I often have as an example to show you how this exercise works, and you can choose your own negative thought and go through this exercise along with me. So my negative thought would be, I'm not enough. It's a thought that often comes out, especially when I have to make videos like this. So the first thing that I do is that I will write my unhelpful thought here. I am not enough. So the first thing that you want to do is to draw some lines on your paper. 3 vertical lines, just like that. And then I want you to think and describe the context in which this thought arises. So I'll fill it in with my own example, and my own example would be something like, I have to create a video around psychology about a subject that I don't know much about, and that makes me feel not enough. Having to create a video about a subject that I do not know much about makes me realize how little I know. And then this makes me feel I'm not enough. And then this makes me feel that I'm an imposter. And then you see how thoughts can go on and on and on until they completely ruin my day. So again, feel free to pause the video here or anytime you want and write about the situation and the context in which this thought arises. Next step will be to start analyzing our negative thought and see it from different perspectives. And for our analysis, we will use some different controls. So in the first column here, write with me the following. How does this thought make me feel? In the second column, I want you to rate how this thought makes you feel from a scale of 1 to 5, let's say. Personally, my thought makes me feel really negative, so I'll rate it with 1. The second question will be, would I say this to a friend of mine? Would I say this to a friend that I love? And again, I want you to rate the possibility of saying this sentence to a friend of yours whom you love. In my example, I would say to a friend, you are not enough. Would I ever say that? The point here is that we need to be aware that 99% of the time when we talk to ourselves negatively, and then when we criticize ourselves, we use words that we would never use when talking to a friend we love and whose best interest is our priority. And what we do not realize is that we have a duty to take care of ourselves, like someone we really care about, and like someone whom we want to elevate from where they are to where they deserve to be. But man, I'm telling you, that's the most difficult thing ever. I don't know about you, but I would never say to a friend whom I love, you are not enough. So I'll give this one a 1, 2. The next thing we want to test is if this thought motivates us to improve the situation we're in. So we're going to write here, does it motivate me to improve things? How can I'm not enough be motivating for anything ever? On the contrary, I would say that when I hear myself saying to myself, I'm not enough, it makes me feel like crap and it makes me want to spend the rest of the day being miserable about how useless I am. So again, definitely not. I'll give it a 1, 2. And you can do the same with your own example, rate it, how much it motivates you to change things. Great, so now I'm done with the control questions, and the next thing to do in our analysis is to try and categorize this thought. You see, there are certain styles of, let's say, negative thinking, and when you're able to identify which style you are following most of the times, it helps you go deeper into analyzing yourself and becoming aware of the unconscious patterns you follow. So I'll go through them, and as I go, try to think under which one your negative thought falls under. So the first one is magnification or minimization. I'm going to write it here and then put a checkbox next to it. So magnification or minimization is when you either exaggerate or minimize the importance of events. So you might believe that your achievements are not important, or you might believe that your mistakes are massively important, or you tend to magnify the positive attributes of other people and minimize your own positive attributes. Next one is called catastrophizing. And this is basically when you can only see the worst possible outcome of any given situation. Like saying that the situation is the worst ever, even though in reality the issue is quite smaller than what you perceive it as. After that, we will add overgeneralization, which is when you make broad interpretations from a single event, like I felt awkward during my date, therefore I'm always awkward. So basically seeing a single event as a repeating pattern of your behavior. The next one is jumping to conclusions. And this one is self-explanatory, and it's basically when we tend to interpret the meaning of a situation without having sufficient evidence. Below that, we will write personalization, which is basically when you hold yourself responsible for something that is not entirely under your control. Moving on to mental filter, which is when you recognize only the negative aspects of a situation and you ignore all the positive. So for example, let's say you're at work and you gave a presentation and you receive compliments during the feedback, but you focus on the single piece of negative feedback that you received. The one before last is what we call should statements. So by saying I should or I shouldn't, what you do is that you put unhelpful pressure and demands on yourself. Like I shouldn't be feeling anxious or I should feel ashamed. That's when you create unrealistic expectations, which turns to resentment towards yourself, and we don't want that. The last one I will write is absolute thinking. This is when we think in absolutes. So you either see good or bad, or wrong or right, or black and white, or you use words like always, never, every. Basically when there's no in-between shades of gray. This is when the absolute thinking occurs. And as I hope we know by now, is that all life happens in between those shades of gray. I will make a joke about the book now, but nothing comes up. And here is our final checklist. Now let's go back to my example, I am not enough. I am not enough because I have to create a video around psychology about a subject that I do not know much about. In which style do you think it belongs? I would say it's magnification or minimization, because I do not see all the other things that I know. I just magnify on what I don't know and fixate on that. So now that I know under which category my thought falls under, I'll be able to see in the future if future negative thoughts fall under the same category. And that's usually the case, most of the times the majority of our negative thinking falls under the same categories, which has to do with the attachment that we had with our parents when we were little. But that's a discussion for another video, to see basically how our styles of negative thinking are connected with our past and what can we do about it. But we're not finished yet, we need to create an alternative thought. Let's go back and see how we can do that. Ideally, what you want from your alternative thought is to result in positive feelings, to help you improve the situation and to match what you would say to a friend. So I'm gonna have a think now and write my alternative thought in here next to the negative thought. And then we'll compare them. So feel free to pause the video again, take your time to come up with one. It might not be easy at the first, but I promise you, the more you do this exercise, the more intuitive it will become. There will be a point where you'll think of something negative, and then you'll be able to stop yourself and say, hang on, what's this? What's going on now? So for my example, I came up with a thought that sounds like this. If I study for 45 minutes every day for the rest of the week, I'll be able to write the script for my new video about the subject I know little about. I know it's a mouthful, but what this thought has is three key things. The first one is that it has an actionable verb, if I study. This gives me the action point of what I need to do to get out of the situation that I'm in. The second thing is that it has a very specific time frame. I say that I want to study for 45 minutes every day for a week, which is more than enough time and is perfectly doable. So having set a specific time frame creates a sense of accountability, which I find useful. And the last thing that it has is that I can see the outcome in the formulation of the thought. So if I study for 45 minutes every day for the week, then I'll be able to write the script for my new video about the subject I know little about. So now it's time to rate this new alternative thought and see how it makes me feel. So, does it result in positive feelings? Yeah. When I hear it, I don't feel as crap as I am not enough. So I'll give it, let's say, an 8. It's not the perfect one, but it's fine. Does it motivate me to improve the situation? Yes, it does, because it gives me, let's say, something like a clear path that I can follow. Great, so I'll rate it with an 8. The third one, would I say this to a friend? Yeah, most definitely, because this sentence is something that I would definitely say to them, as I can see how it can help them get out of the situation they're in. If I tell them you're not enough, all I do is criticizing them and, make them feel bad. But with this one, I can see how helpful it can be for them. So that's it, that's the exercise for today. Keep doing it every time you have negative thoughts, and I'm sure that at some point it will feel second nature. It's like seeing yourself as your best friend whose interest and well-being is your top priority. So leave a comment below to tell me how you found it and how this exercise worked for you. And don't forget to like this video, because it's a very small thing that means a lot for me and a lot for the future of this channel. And if you want to receive the next exercise that I will share, please make sure to subscribe. I'm Dimitris, and I share insights and tools that help you design a well-lived life. Keep your positive thoughts coming.